In the last episode, we talked about the seeming fragmentation of the healing field. There are many different modalities. There's not only allopathic medicine that uses drugs and chemotherapy and radiation and surgery, but there's complementary medicine or alternative medicine, and that has a whole gamut of different approaches. And sometimes, we're wondering which is the best way to go and so on. When you make progress in one area, it should lead to progress in other areas, and I've encouraged you all to look for the interconnections, not only between the different complementary modalities, but also horizontally and vertically. Just remember what those axes mean as well, that your health is impacted by the horizontal, that is to say, by your relationships with people, with animals, with nature. Of course, if you're lonely and depressed and alienated, you're more likely to come down with a bad disease, maybe a terminal disease.
Oh dear.
Everything's going to change. Your blood chemistry is going to change. Your gut biome, microbiome is going to change. If your relationships are vibrant and functional, it produces a very positive dividend for your health. So you have your relationships with family and friends and community, but you also have your relationship to your pets, which we mentioned as well. And they're the first line of relationship with the animal kingdom. And what would be the first line of relationship with the vegetable kingdom? It could be your own garden. It could be what you grow in your backyard, or it could be appreciating your backyard. So that is also part of the horizontal. And then with the vertical, we've got the different dimensions, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And we've seen how energy plays through all these levels and is channeled and works through centers and so on. Now, it can all be a bit confusing. Where do you start? I said just start anywhere, that's true. But there is also an approach to healing that tries to go right to the source. In the sacred scriptures, like in the Bible, for example, we read of examples of healing that are spontaneous. And it could be leprosy, or it could be muteness, or blindness, or paralysis, even apparent death. Can these things really happen? I think we owe it to ourselves to ask that question and to investigate. Some people think that they are just symbolic stories, and some people think that maybe they happened sometime in the past, but they don't happen anymore. But there are a lot of documented cases of spontaneous remissions. There's no chronic disease that you can think of where there haven't been documented cases of spontaneous remissions. Like somebody that has been given up for dead for having a stage 4, terminal cancer or whatever. And one day it's there and the next day it's gone. And they just call it a spontaneous remission, which is another way of saying we don't know what the hell happened.
There's no trace of it.
Yeah. And people have recovered from diabetes and Alzheimer's and cardiovascular conditions, and the whole raft of diseases that plague us. And I'm talking about not implementing a diet over a long period of time and not implementing a therapy regime, be it hydrotherapy or herbal therapy over a long period of time, and not implementing an exercise regime over a long period of time. Not that anything's wrong with these things. Sometimes they're a great steady approach to take, especially when these other issues on a spiritual and belief level are still being sorted out. You've got to get on with some beneficial practice while you're still working on that. But if we look at the evidence in the religious traditions and also modern revamps, it's Christian Science, I believe, from the 19th century. Is it Mary Baker Eddy? There's this whole movement called Christian Science, which believed that disease came from the mind somehow, that it was a question of belief or faith versus lack of faith. And certainly this can lend itself to a lot of quackery and a lot of charlatanism. But even if there were a bit of truth to this, it would be worth knowing, would it not? And then there are healers that people will attest have seen results with spontaneous healings, even of physical disfigurements. So there is something else going on when you put all this evidence together, because we think of a disease coming on slowly in space and time, and so it does. But maybe space and time can be changed with a shift of perception and a change of belief and faith. It comes from an inner change, and then it can manifest quite dramatically as well. So we need to hold open the possibility that such healing can exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
We have to ask, each one of us, I suppose, has to ask ourselves, do we believe that such healing is possible?
I do.
You can call it faith healing. You could call it mentalism, maybe.
Power of the mind.
Power of the mind.
Learning how to manifest, bring it into your being. Or a miracle.
But I think it's all predicated on the trust and the confidence that there is a benevolent power in the universe.
That's right.
An intelligent power that wants our good and that can heal us, and is an infinite supply of blessing and healing energy.
Well, it makes sense because that power created us perfectly. So if something goes wrong, it's not the power that's made it go wrong. It's something else that's made it go wrong.
Right. Something has interfered.
Yeah.
With the natural way.
That's right.
And I think that in instances of spontaneous remission and inexplicable healing, I mean, at pilgrimage centres like Lourdes and so on, there are so many documented cases, hundreds, thousands, I don't know what the number is, where the cases of healing have been medically examined and found to be bona fide.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I presume a great proportion of these have been spontaneous.
There's no fancy diets or taking certain vitamins. These things happen like that.
Right.
When they're meant to happen.
There was no physician prescribing something.
No, I'm not even naturopaths, nothing. It's just, it just happens on the spot. I think that's how miracles happen.
And something shifted inside that person when they went to that healer or when they went to that sacred site or place of pilgrimage, and their beliefs shifted. And in that moment, I think the healing took place.
Yes. If that higher power wants it to take place, it will take place, regardless of what you're doing.
So it gives one reason to pause and think, why doesn't it happen more often? If that possibility exists, why don't we open ourselves to that possibility more often? What does it, can we get an idea of what it might entail?
It takes faith, but it also, I think that miracles are something that aren't just freely given.
Miracles are meant to strengthen faith.
Yes, they are.
But faith are required for miracles.
So it's like a catch-22.
It's like a circle. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Probably looking at accounts, the faith comes first. Yeah. So we're left with this quality, this virtue that we call, well, it's a gift really, we call faith. Is this the one thing that we are needful of before any other cleverness around healing? Maybe the most important thing is what's been called faith. And faith is traditionally conceived and explained as a kind of trust in something that's not seen.
That's the heart.
It's a bit like hope. What you hope for, you don't see. It's not right here. But hope presents it as though it were right here. And I think faith presents a good contingency, a good eventuality, as though it were here, and yet the evidence of the senses seems to belie that. Faith is sight unseen. So the senses are saying that it's not here. And yet faith says, oh, but yes, it is. When you look through the eyes of faith, you're not looking through your normal sight. Now we use the word miracle as well because it seems to be a reversal of the normal pattern we get into. And the normal pattern of thinking for a human being is that space and time are crushingly dominant, and that matter, physical stuff, just has a momentum of its own. And you can't step out of the stream of that. So there is a kind of presupposition of something quite deterministic and materialistic in that. Faith can be a pattern interrupt into that way of thinking. Especially when we're looking at spontaneous remissions, because we see that things take time to accumulate. The other thing is, with our normal patterns of thinking, we get caught in the past, and there's a lot of inertia associated with the past. And we tend to see the present and the future through that lens of the past. And there's something in our past, some hurt, some obstruction that keeps pulling us back, and our energies are in hostage to that as well. And when you actually get into it and try to unravel what it is that has this power of attraction over you, it is something you don't quite understand, but it's also something that you have not let go of. It's something akin to a grievance or a resentment. Unforgiveness, and we've talked about that. That this can be that bit of grit, that little pebble thrown into the works that clogs up the functioning of the machinery. And you always keep going back to that, and you'd end up being defined by that. It seems that we were created to be living unencumbered by these burdens from the past. And it seems that these burdens from the past also interfere with our having that expectancy, that miraculous expectancy of good things happening to us. Do people believe in a benevolent universe, a providential universe? I'm talking now about digging down into your most foundational beliefs. Do you believe you're in a universe that's haphazard? That's a chance universe, a random universe of colliding particles? Do you believe you're in a universe in which evil and mayhem and chaos reign supreme? Or do you believe that you live in an ordered universe where things happen for a reason? Do you believe that there is a benevolent or providential power there that, if you trust in it, can order things in your life for the better, and can help you heal, and can help you know, and can help you do your work, and can improve your relationships? Now, of course, only you can answer that question. You can't lie to yourself. You either do believe in that or you don't. And so this is getting into the area of faith.
Or in the process of believing in it.
Yes.
It takes a lot.
Because evidence can be deceptive. And when we're dealing with a faith issue, faith is that, okay, the evidence seems to say this, but my faith says otherwise. Seeing is believing is our normal consciousness. But this spiritual consciousness that may be at the basis of spontaneous remissions, I'm suggesting, is the flip of that. It's the reverse of that. It's believing is seeing. Right? So the evidence comes after the belief. Whereas all of our mundane sciences and our medicine says the belief comes after the evidence.
But I think that that's pretty obnoxious. Like you're saying to God, prove it to me. Prove to me that miracles happen.
Yes, yeah. It can lead to demands for an inauthentic proof, because if you don't believe, then this is the thing. If you don't believe, no matter what happens, you will interpret as a confirmation of your worldview, which can be quite a negative one.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do believe, you don't have the same need for the miracle, but you need to be in that frame of mind in order to see a miracle, in order for a miracle to manifest in your life. And this is the thing, because evidence can be interpreted either way. You know that. You've seen many situations in which person A will interpret something in one way and person B will interpret something in another way. And the thing that they are interpreting is just whatever it is. But the mind makes it what it is for them personally. And people that are against a spiritual or faith healing, let's call it that, this single most needful thing, beyond all the modalities, the people who are most against that, I don't know if any amount of evidence will satisfy them.
Look, anything that's remotely come into my life that's like a miracle has happened when I've least expected it.
Have you noticed any difference in your thinking when it was happening?
No, it was like an entitlement. It was meant to happen.
Right.
And
as soon as something new was manifesting, it strengthened what faith you had.
The faith you have, yeah, exactly.
And then that strengthened faith leads you to an expectancy of something more of that happening.
You've got to be careful the expectancy, because that could lead to frustration too. If you're constantly expecting things to happen, that's not good either.
And what if they don't?
Yeah, what if they don't? How does that affect your belief system?
That's right, and that's when you get into that's when you get into the situation that you referred to, where you put the divine intelligence to the test instead of trusting in that. If there is this force guiding your life, it's bigger than you.
That's right.
It's infinite.
Why would you question it?
It's infinite. Infinitely good and intelligent and powerful. And if you think that you can just harness it and use it for your own purpose, then there's a problem in that. You can't make it perform on command for you, otherwise it wouldn't be what it is.
Well, that's what most people think.
And
That's why they'll never experience a miracle in their life.
Well, this is the problem with a lot of self-help strategies, because it's about be a manifester, take control of your destiny, manifest your desires. It kind of doesn't matter whether your desires are purely licentious or whether they're contradictory or whether they're good for the world or bad for the world. You want that Lamborghini manifested. Well, yes and no. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But is that the point of this exercise?
No.
It's not about me and what I want, because I'm the creature. I'm not the creator.
That's right.
The creator who made me, if you believe in a creator, has set a blueprint and a plan for my life. So I've got to get with the program and find out what that intelligence wants for me, what it's directing me to do. And it can come through the unconscious, as I say, and it can show itself up in dreams, in intuitions.
That's right.
And as we talked about before, it can give you confirmatory signs through synchronicities.
And it's wonderful when it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because that is the difference between magicking something up and being miracle-minded, if we can put it in that way. Because
did you say magic?
Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because magic has an attraction for a lot of people because they want to be in control.
Oh yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, it seems powerful because, and I'm sure that in the healing arts, a lot of people are more magical than miracle-minded, and that can lead to false healing.
Oh, I don't believe in magic.
You know, I've got this special power and so on. No, it's,
no, I don't believe in it.
Nobody owns it. Nobody has a monopoly on it. But magic is essentially the belief that you can make things happen. Magic is about making things happen. Who's making it? Oh, well, I am. I'm the one with the
Nothing
power.
happens without consent.
Whereas, and that manifestation is ruled, is governed, is directed and dictated by what I want.
That's the ego, isn't it, Thomas?
Well, yeah, ego is I. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about here.
No, neither am I.
I'm saying that I think if there is this one needful thing above all other forms of healing, this spiritual or faith healing, miraculous healing, then that is not what I want. It's what the Creator wants. It's what's in accord with the Creator's will, and it's not in my control.
No. The only thing you can do is to communicate with the Creator and let him know that you're struggling, that it's hard, that you would really appreciate some help. That's all you can do.
That can be called prayer too. A lot of people think of that as prayer. With magic, I have to be in control of the process. It has to be what I want, and I have to direct it.
Yeah.
It's so limited, because on the other hand, you could be dealing with an infinite intelligence that knows everything, that knows what you need before you know yourself. And it's more about surrendering to that and cooperating with that and allowing the blueprints that holds to manifest in your life, and allow whatever energies need to transmute. And I think in the cases of spontaneous remission, there have been energies that have been bound up in crystallized structures and pathology in the physical body that's just become like physical, like actually disintegrating and being released in energy and redirected elsewhere in a moment. And a lot of people who've been through that spontaneous healing said that, you know, it was like there's there's something like just exploding in their body, or they just felt this heat, this warmth, this energy moving through them.
Instantaneously, it just...
That would seem to be the case.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how I always imagine a miracle. Effortless.
And if it's in our control, it's not a miracle.
Of course not.
Because miracles, if there be miracles, this faith healing, and I think we all have a concept of what that is. We can imagine somebody being stricken and then the next moment, boom, it's gone.
It has happened too.
You know? If there be miracles, then they can't be under any human being's control. They can't be under the ego's control.
No.
In fact, the only chance they have of happening is when that control is released. That means that the spiritual power that produces the miracle needs to be invited in and accommodated by the person. And when that happens, a person's faith can make them whole. And sometimes that happens facilitated by an outside healer, an external healer who's taking the journey with that person. But sometimes it could happen just for that person on their own. But either way, the words ring true. Thy faith has made thee whole.